Welcome to Built, Trusted, Chosen, the podcast for leaders and marketers in trades and construction, hosted by Wes Towers from Uplift 360.
Hello, Alex. It's fantastic to have you on the show. I've listened to a bunch of your material all around architecture and so on, and this audience is mainly for the trades construction industry. So obviously architecture fits right into our lane that we speak on, and your expert knowledge. Super excited to unpack some of that, some of the lessons you've learned. And so I'm sure the audience is going to get a great lot of value out of this show. But just real quick, tell us who you are, just to set the foundation.
Sure.
Who you are, what you're up to these days.
Well, thanks for having me, Wes. I love that your name is Wes Towers. It fits in perfectly. Hopefully, are you? You don't have to give your exact height, but are you a tall man?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it's funny.
Oh,
It's yeah.
perfect.
So it's funny. I'm trying to rank well on Google and AI and all that stuff. And there's when you search my name, and we all Google our names, don't we? But I show up in some tower somewhere, a legitimate tower.
Well, okay, that's
confused with.
that's funny. And then you are probably old enough to remember, because a lot of people know American politics. I was in the age of teenager when Al Gore was the vice president, and my first name is Alex, and last name is Gore. So for years, Al Gore, I've used Al Gore. The only reason, and it's so funny because you would think maybe like I would stop using it, but as a kid, if that's your name, what everyone calls you, that's kind of what you go by. So everyone would call me Al Gore. And then obviously on LinkedIn, I get people inviting me to conferences that to headline and speak. But the reason why I changed and put you can see Alex Gore here is because when you put Al, it looks too much like AI, and I can't convince the world that all AI should just be a lowercase I. Because L, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So I've been fighting this fight, continue to fight this fight of names for a long time. I'm co-founder of the architecture firm F9 Productions with my other partner, Lance Psycho. He has a problem because it's Cayko, and he pronounced it Psycho. So, and we started an architecture company and then started to build our own work and then transitioned into constructing some of our clients' work. So that's the really quick and dirty of it.
Yeah, brilliant. And so I'm really keen to unpack all of that as much as we can in 30, 40 minutes, right? So just tell me maybe a little bit more of the origin story of how you got into the career path in the first place.
So when I was young, before I can even remember, I would always draw stuff. I would always draw, ants versus bees, other things like that. Then pirate ships. Then my grandma gave me huge sheets of, like calendars, the back sheets of calendars, because my grandpa was salesman for State Farm. And then I would draw just like cities and then later libraries and buildings. And then since that, everyone, my parents and them say, oh, Alex is going to be an architect. So that's all I ever knew or all I ever wanted to do. And then went to school for it. In high school, it was funny because you could take electives it built up out of how many electives you could take. And I think in my fourth year, I was taking 4 drafting electives. So I would have like 2 other classes, a gym class, and then 4 hours of drafting, and then an open study period, which I would just be in the drafting room too. And then went to school at North Dakota State in architecture, went out, got a job for Daniel Libeskind, World Trade Center Master Plan, Jewish Museum, all that stuff. And then 2008 hit, and then that was a crash. Everyone young essentially got laid off, and that's how Lance and I connected. We were buddies in school and then started the firm F9.
Yeah, wow. And so really rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty, so to speak, in the business and so on. You mentioned an interesting thing. You kind of had it was almost like a purpose, even as a young age. Do you feel as though, how much of your career is your purpose? How do you see purpose in life and business?
It's so funny because that's what I wanted to do And then you quickly learn, and it's not just architecture. Any job you get into, I
Yeah.
feel like you quickly realize the part that you thought you were getting into is 10%, and then
Yeah.
90% is dealing with the city, dealing with people, dealing with the clients, all these other
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
the purpose changed from, me being internal purpose of drawing stuff and creating stuff because that's what I like to do, to how do I get this built? And
Yeah.
and because and it constantly kind of got deeper because you
Yeah.
realize how hard it is to get stuff built through the process and through the
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then you realize, like, not only the process, but then the government will put on even more things. So it will say, and people and NIMBYs and all this, oh, we want affordable housing, but also you have to do all the sustainable stuff. Also, you have to do all
Yeah.
the sprinkler stuff. Also, you have to do all these other things. And then,
Yeah.
so then the purpose was like, how do I help people do this? Because we service everyone from someone just trying to do an addition or a remodel, which people need. They grow. It's hard to move, especially if interest rates are so high, and sometimes they love their neighborhood. So, like, how do we help them? All the way up to, I wouldn't say mansions in the sense. I would say high-end residential mountain homes for, luxury clients and stuff like that, multifamily clients, and then boutique industrial, your shop that's going in the downtown or a strip mall
Yeah.
or something like that. And so that's a struggle. And then we went out into the field, like I said, and we started building. And I would help out, a guy's sick, something happens, we're under a deadline, and all of a sudden it's the middle of winter and I'm sheathing up on a ladder with a separated shoulder from jujitsu, and then falling off the ladder and then catching myself with that shoulder, and then just realizing, oh, this is way harder. This is way harder than my job sitting there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's geared towards, we always knew this because we had some construction background, is like, well, how do we make their job easier? How do we make their job smoother? How do we make things clearer? How do we organize things there? So the purpose evolved from just drawing to how to actually build the world. Because I think people take it for granted that, like, you grow up, you are born in a hospital, you then drive to your house, you go to a school that's there. It's like the background that society takes for granted. And yes, there's political issues, there's monetary issues, there's international relations. But this, like, that's all almost center stage, except for late, like, it has been getting this affordability kind of crisis and all that. But it's hard explaining to people, like, and I don't know why it's so hard. Well, if you want affordability, can we go back to the 2009 International Building Code and international, and they're like, well, then
Yeah.
what about sustainability and what about safety? And then well, for safety, things didn't really break down any more in 2009 than they do now. So it's not really too much of a safety issue. And sustainability, like, can we isolate that? Can we have power generation separate from, your home? And I know that there's savings in installations and stuff like that, but you can't have 4 or 5 competing things and then make them all work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
It's
my
kind of
kid,
like a massive jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Trying to bring all these pieces together. You got a table full of pieces and different things going on, and people and policies and all that stuff, and trying to figure out how this thing goes together. And you don't even know what the picture looks like. you,
yeah.
you know.
And an analogy that I might use, because I do go talk to city councils and stuff like that, is my kid. All kids are imaginative, and they go, "Okay, Dad, let's have a car that's a boat and a plane."
Yeah.
And then on their age, you're like, well, you don't really want to do that, because then when you're in the air, you have the boat motor, right? And then you have the car motor, and then on a
Yeah.
boat, you really don't need the wings on a boat. So that's like why they're separated. And if I was talking to city council, they would all nod and explain, you're saying this to a 9-year-old. And then what if the 9-year-old said, it has to be affordable too? That's what you're doing to the construction
Yeah.
industry. You're saying
Yeah.
take a car, a boat, and a plane and make it affordable. And
Yeah.
do you have the guts to do something about that, or do you not? And I wouldn't say this to their face, this last part. I'm betting you don't. I'm betting you don't have the guts to do anything about it because you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And you touched on something I'd really like to unpack a bit further is that you just want to, you had a focus of making the job easier for the construction guys, which is really an interesting way of looking at it and a powerful way of considering it. Because I think sometimes when that can be high tension, when things are competing views, high tension, the best way to dissolve it is to think about it from the other person's perspective. Do you see that as a massive part of what makes a successful firm?
I think so because what we've done and almost focused on is customer is customers. And I think everyone says that. But if
Yes.
you just Google a random architecture firm, look how many
Yeah.
Google reviews they have. Probably like 4, 6, whatever it is. One of our offices probably has 96. The other one has like 53, and it's newer. And I
Yeah.
think that comes from doing that because, again, like when you look at these trade-offs, you can get an architecture plan or something for cheap. And what happens is that like it has 8 pages. They're going to build it. A builder is going to build it. But all of a sudden, like there's not information, there's not clarity there. So the bids
Yeah.
actually might come in higher, but then people are going to be more frustrated because, and you've probably heard this, like, especially in AutoCAD, like architects suck, their drawings suck, and all that stuff. And that's the pressure of caving into low quality drawings, right? But then
Yeah.
if you have a million different nuances of how you make your plans clear, you dimension to the stud walls. You put things in 2-foot increments. You make, when you have a structural view or a foundation view that steps, you make it in 3D so they understand it visually quicker than when they go to the 2D with all the lines and all the this height and that height. It does make the whole process a lot smoother, and you have to convince the client that it's worth it to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to another guy on one of the podcasts, and he's a developer, property developer, and so he partners with a lot of companies, and he partnered with this one guy who cheaped out on his drawings. It was the drawings were realistically they were there good enough to get permits, not good enough to build, and they forgot to do the bit about improving them so they were build worthy, and so he lost a bunch of money on
Yep.
that project. So these are the things, these are the costly mistakes if you cheap out or cut corners. Choosing an architect firm purely on price alone, horrible mistake, and it could be a costly mistake in the long run. Those cheap drawings could be pretty expensive in the long run. Do you see that a
They
little
are.
bit as well?
We've been taking over because our structural engineer has been getting called in to come save projects. So same thing, drawings suck, foundations aren't in the right place, they're not in the right depth. Now you have to like helical pier them. Now you have to resubmit them and all that. And it's holy cow, that costs you a whole bunch. But the problem is like, okay, let's say that's 1 out of 50 homes.
Yeah.
People will think that's not going to be them. Like, oh, that's not going to be me. Oh, the contractor will figure it out. And then the contractor can say, let's say he's doing 4 or 5 jobs and he builds to the plan. Now he has an out. Now, like when that change order comes, oh, I get my 20% on that. And I'm not saying that that's how they're thinking, but there is reality to that.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's speak to that trust aspect a bit further as well. So obviously, there's just so many pieces, as I said, of a puzzle, and those powerful collaborations that you have that earn lots of Google reviews. That's obviously a massive trust signal, and that's what people are looking for. Things that can't easily be manufactured. We can all say wonderful things about our own businesses. If we're looking to grow our businesses, we can say wonderful things on our website. That's what we do. We design websites and so on for trades and construction. But But we all know that it might have been written by AI even and we can't trust what we read or we can't trust what we see. But the relationships behind the scenes, they're so powerful. And Google reviews, for example, they can't be easily manufactured. You've earned a lot of this stuff purely of the back of having great relationships. How do you go about building those relationships?
And, the first thing I thought it was interesting, you said AI. So we were just reviewing some portfolios of some students, and we saw one thing, and because of our eye is tuned to the rendering capabilities and what AI is and all that other stuff, we asked them if that rendering was AI, and they were able to prove that it wasn't, which was phenomenal. But that's me as an architect of 25 years, whatever it's been. You're going to give drawings to some people, and they're not going to know. They're not going to know at all. And how do they tell? Like, for example, it's easy to miss. I've seen toilets. I've seen like a bathroom and a toilet face the tub, and all of a sudden, like it wasn't even an AI drawing, and I was able to like tell them and fix it, and it's not a big deal. But you're expecting a consumer to understand like it can't be built that way. It's just not going to work out. And going back to the trust and all that, it's hard because I'll go in two veins, and if I'm talking too much, let me know. But I'm dealing with contractors, and then I'll relate this to architects too. When I meet with contractors, because contractors want to be partners with architects because that's where their funnel comes from. And they all have the same pitch. And the same pitch is, we have great tracking software, and we have this, system, and we do a Gantt chart, and we get like, and I'm not knocking any of that. I'm not knocking any of that. But it's like, well, you all are saying the same exact thing. And the difference in the differentiator is, I think clients look at some builders and they'll see on their website, and let's say you see a very high-end home. And I think that emotional connection and knowing that there's sophisticated details and they've identified the subs to execute those correctly is, if I'm remaking a Ferrari, I don't hire a Toyota guy. And it's not that, hey, Toyotas are great. They are great. But like, I want a Ferrari. I want this. So it's weird that their pitches are not aligning with what I think is the actual value. And the actual value is, this is so difficult and so hard to get right. And so many, I don't know how they would polish this, but subs like drink. Some subs do drugs. Some subs don't show up on time. All this stuff. You see this beautiful house on our webpage? We have eliminated all those so that you're getting what you actually see there. And the other people that don't have that haven't eliminated all that. Now going to architecture, it's hard. The same thing. We'll talk to clients and we'll tell them, hey, we model like it gets built, meaning framing walls go up first. And this all, how we were talking about how making it easier for the contractor, and then we put our skin wall in, and then we talk about all this, and I think it half goes in one ear and out the other, because it's like telling a client, like, oh, we have a Gantt chart, and then they hear, oh, we have Revit, and they talk to another architect, oh, we have Revit, right? So I don't know how successful that is. I think it boils down to, and I hate to say this, the architecture that I want is on your website, and other people online or that we know says that you do a good job, and your price range was what was expected. I think it's that. And it's hard to, this is the hard thing to explain, and maybe it's the hard thing for contractors to explain to me, is like, oh, because what I want to tell our client is, I have seen almost every architecture firm's drawings in our area. Some of them are good. Most of them are absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But they're not. They are looking. They're not buying the drawings. The drawings are for the contractor and for the city. So I don't think it's as effective as. And our firm is successful. We're fine. We've done all those reviews. But it's hard to sit down with a client and just say, you're here because you saw something that you like that we do. So we know how to do it. So if we're within 10 to 20%, you should just pick us.
Yeah. And that's the power of niching, or at least to know what your lane is and what you want to do and focus. It's an interesting thing. I was talking to another person about everyone coming out bland and the same. They were talking more so of recruitment and, people submitting their resume, which is AI written to match the job description and so on, and trying to get seen by the AI on the other side. So AI is writing the resume and the cover letter and so on, and then the AI is reading it and trying to assess whether it's valuable. There's just this sea of bland sameness because it's all producing perceived to be the best and the ideal, but that means it all comes out kind of the same. But once you figure out what you truly want to be known for and build a reputation around that, the world becomes so much more of an easy place, and you get recognized in a certain way. Do you think niching is an important aspect for all businesses, or is that something you kind of consider?
It's a great question, and it comes with a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to go, and we're constantly, evaluating how much niche to how much spread you have, because in the sense of where we were born, especially on Lance's side, is they niched down to high-end homes so much. 2008 hit, everyone's laid off. Because no one's building high-end homes. 2008.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you're wobbly. You're wobbly because that's all you have. Now, and that's where and this goes to my problem. So sorry, I think people think it's not all just easy roses and solutions, because when we identified that, our name is F9 Productions. It's 9 fundamental values. And I could go in how it's not just on the wall, it's just not on the website. Every day, a person is talking about a problem they have, a process they're improving, and how it relates to a principle. And and the reason why I say that is because we niche down into understanding the substance of what the client wants and then bringing that to life. So it's a different thought pattern on niching, because we will span that additions, remodels, mountain homes, that whole line I said. But our niche is, what do you need? What will serve that, and that's the niche. Now,
I love that around values as opposed to a specific type of project, which is awesome. The 9 values. I mean, I don't know if we can go through all of them in great detail, but it'd be nice to touch on what they are to a degree as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I will say though, once you do that, it doesn't, the niching in the physical sense is also a great idea, because now if essentially you want to really niche on high-end residential homes, you should then focus your marketing around it. You should focus who you're talking to, who you're reaching out to, how you develop your drawing, so it is, I do understand that too, but if that becomes everything, then you become vulnerable. So
true.
I don't want to skip your question, but the number one, F9productions.com, under about, you can find it, but it's just /F9-foundations. Number 1 is be brilliant at the basics. And where this came from was, I was working out in Montana in 2008 because I laid off, just for this rich guy, helping him take care of his home. And alls I did, because he left the property, so I just had tasks that I had to do. And it's not that I would show up even right on time. It's just I would see the task, do the task, execute the task, tell him what I did, That was it. At the end of the year, he gave me a bonus, and the next year he called me up and said, "Hey, you were great. You want to do it again?" And I, like I already moved on, started this firm. And it was confusing to me because my thought was, well, I just did like the basics. I just showed up, did the work, all that, and it would take you so much farther than what people think. I think people think if you do the basics, you'll be at 50%, like you'll be the average. You'll be the average. I think if you actually do the basics, you're in the top 90%. Like you're in the top 10%. You're at 90%. That's what I think.
Yeah, get it right. That's what reputation is built upon. I always like to think about it in a way, working with anybody, to think about, okay, what impression am I leaving behind, and what are they going to say to their mates? In Australia, we use mates. So that's the word of mouth, and some things go around town in any field construction. Particularly if you're in a smaller town, everyone's talking about the various providers of certain services and so on, and everybody knows who the good ones are and the bad ones are. But the person themselves, because they don't hear directly what people are saying about them necessarily. So it's an interesting world. I'd like to go into the chosen piece. Because you mentioned contractors want to get chosen by an architecture firm because it's a great lead source of consistent work. What are some of the elements they should be thinking about bringing to the table so they can be selected and be the preferred provider to the architecture firm?
Yeah, I think it goes back to your questions of niching, which makes sense, is because we have a reputation and we want to uphold it. And there's a lot of options, just like there's a lot of architects. So this just doesn't apply to contractors. But I want to recommend a contractor that will fit that. So if you are a TI contractor, I'm not going to recommend you for a high-end home because I understand that there's differences in it, in quality, craftsmanship, all that. But the same thing is true, is that a high-end home, even they could build a TI, no problem. Like I have no questions. They have the knowledge, whatever. I'm still not going to recommend you for the TI because the difference of what a commercial client wants in sort of speed is way different than a residential client. And people who are listening to this probably know this. A residential client will say, "Oh, I want to get it done now and let's go." And then you'll say something like, "Hey, great. Did you get the survey?" And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then they'll wait 2 weeks before they reach out. Then, they'll drag their feet, and then you'll send them something and you're like, "If you want to go fast, like, let me know your decisions on that." They'll sit on it for 2 weeks, something like that. You get a guy who their restaurant needs to open and they're paying the mortgage for that place. They'll be like, "Yep, do that. Blue." We're going with blue. So the I think one, you need to know that and talk to the appropriate architect. And then obviously you can do your pitch about your quality and all that, but basically saying, "I do this, TI or that." That's who we want to funnel. And the other thing too is that honestly, we know that people go to contractors too. So how can we be the person you recommend them to?
Yeah.
100%.
And
then make that true. Make that true, because if you are a contractor who's like, "Oh, when I get a client, I just draw something on my $49 software, throw it through there, and then good," or I out like, "Hey, that's great, but we live in an economy here, like if this is just a one-way street, it might not work out."
Yeah, those collaborations and referral partnerships, I think it's the greatest way to grow any business. Now that's coming from a digital marketing guy, so we support people in that field. But the way you can collaborate, it's just it just amplifies everything that you're doing, and it's the most cost-effective marketing as well. The people out there talking about what you do and giving back, that reciprocity needs to kick in as well. If you're sending a bunch of work to Sparky we call electric. We've got over here in Australia, we've got the names for everything, all the crazy names. If you're sending a whole bunch of work to the Sparky, the electrician, and you know that they're getting opportunities, but they're not sending it your way, well, it's going to cause tension, obviously. So thinking that through and how you go about creating those referral partners and relationships in business, powerful.
Absolutely.
This has flown by. This has been awesome. There's so many other avenues we could take. I'd like to ask, is there a question that I missed that I really should have asked you, and what would the answer be to that?
Holy cow. This is going to be almost self-evident based on our talk, but if it's marketing, if it's how do I get the jobs that I want? How do I get the jobs that I want? And it's any industry, it doesn't matter. And it can even be for resumes and stuff like that. And I learned this from YouTube because there's a difference between like successful YouTube videos that you watch. Sometimes you just watch them because you need to know how to do X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
Some videos are just because they're hilarious and funny and whatever you're into, sports, magic, who cares? But then there's other ones where it's like science space and you're like, well, I really don't care about science, but I'm watching the science channel or this tech channel. Like I'm not even a techie, but I'm watching MKBHD, and all that stuff. And I've heard these guys talk about it and it makes a whole bunch of sense. Is when they're telling whatever they are, they're demonstrating it too. So like the science example, like they're talking about vortexes and stuff. I know nothing about vortexes or wind, right? I don't even, who cares? But they're throwing the ball over the Hoover Dam and then showing you what happens and then making a diagram of it. And you're like, oh, that's why I watch. Like if I asked you, Wes, hey, you want to come over to my house and watch some vortex videos?
I've already seen all those episodes. What are you talking about?
But then if you're like, you might have you seen someone throw a ball over like the Hoover? No. Who knows if it was the Hoover? But anyways, like some people be like, oh yeah, I saw that Veritasium. Like that guy. Like he's super cool the way that he explains stuff. So contractors, architects, resume people, whatever your passion is, whatever you want to do, somehow demonstrate that. Is it a model? Is it a project? Is it a video? Is it a graphic? Is it, who knows what the answer is? But demonstrate that you can do that. If you come and be like, oh, I want to be a high-end residential architect designer, and all you have is mediocre, whatever work that's not that, well, no one's going to hire you for what you want to do.
Yeah. You got to do the thing you want to do. You got to be known for that and
then demonstrate it, then put it out.
Put it out there, so people can see that that's what you're up to, and other things will be drawn to you in that same way. It's just a matter of getting started in the area of the passion. You need passion in any business because, as you said early on, I mean, we go into business and it's only a fraction of what we think it is. The things that we love to do, all the other stuff that you've just got to do because it's part of the process, and there's ups and downs, a roller coaster ride, and things go sideways sometimes, and so on. So the only thing to keep you sticking at your business is passion. And so if you can choose something that you truly love and enjoy doing, then you're in far better shape to stick at it.
Yeah.
This has been an awesome show. How could people find out more? You've involved in a few things, and so. Tell the audience how they should connect with you or what they should. You mentioned your websites. I'll put any websites you want to in the show notes. So speak that all again.
So go to f9productions.com. But actually what I want everyone to do, I'll only give one call to action, is go to LinkedIn, search Al Gore, but find the Al Gore. I haven't changed it on LinkedIn. That looks like me, that has an architect building in the background, and follow that. That's actually... So like search LinkedIn, architect Al Gore. You'll probably see the other Al Gore. Find the one that has a beard and a head like this in architecture and follow that guy.
Well, some people will be listening on the rather than the video, so they can't see you. But the bearded guy.
Yeah. I
says
don't think the
that-
other Al Gore has a beard.
Yeah. So they'll find you that way, find you on LinkedIn, build it out and build connections. I'm a big LinkedIn user as well. I think we're already connected. If not, I'll do that after the show. Thanks so much, Al. Alex, do you go by Alex now or Al?
Both. It's
Both,
turning more till Alex, but a lot of my friends still call me Al.
Well, yeah, Al, yeah, we'll do. Thanks, Al. It's been brilliant.
Thanks for listening to Built, Trusted, Chosen. Brought to you by Uplift 360. Visit uplift360.com.au.